Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carly Shortino-Poulter, and I'm the director of the ARC Advocacy Network at the ARC of Indiana. And I want to welcome you all to Ask the ARC. Every month, we do a webinar on a topic related to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We try to make it a timely topic. We try to make it something of interest so that families are able to find out what else is going on in the disability world. And the reality is, the school year has just ended. And so that tends to make people start thinking about, well, what's going to happen after high school? What are we going to do after school's done? When the bus stops coming, what's next? And so we wanted to talk about one of the options for that. Um, and so today I'd like to introduce Daniel Gurulé, who is the Community Outreach Manager for the ARC of Indiana and the Erskine Green Training Institute. And Daniel's gonna talk about Erskine Green. He has been with Erskine Green since the day it opened 10 years ago. He started off as one of the student support specialists, working directly with students to prepare them for being able to work in the community and to work successfully in the community, and really try to make sure that he was working in that natural environment and collaborating in partnership with IU Ball Memorial Hospital, Courtyard by Muncie, or Courtyard by Marriott Muncie, the 1925 Pub House, and making sure that students were able to learn all of the different job skills they would need, learn the different independent living skills they would need in order to be successful. Um, so, uh, in addition to all of the work that he does with Erskine Green, he's participated in programs like the Academy on Community Leaders, a 10-week program designed for professionals to learn about Muncie. And through that initiative, as well as others like Muncie on the Move, Dan just developed strong relationships and gained a deep understanding with local businesses and the local business landscape and community dynamics. Outside of his professional commitments, Daniel's an active member of the community. He volunteers his time as a member of the Hope Network, helping other people every day. He mentors individuals in career development journey and strives to make sure that to make a positive impact on the lives of people around him. So at this point, I'd like to turn things over to Daniel. I will say we are recording this session, and we will be posting it on our YouTube channel. I will also say, if you have questions, we'd love to have you put your questions in the Q&A. And then you guys know me well enough to know I like to be transparent. And so I'm going to be perfectly honest and warn you that I am completely biased because I am the very proud mom of an EGTI alum. My son went to Erskine Green in 2020. He was originally supposed to go in April of 2020. That is the one session that got canceled due to the COVID pandemic, but he wound up going in October of that year. He actually did their supply chain program, and it is amazing the difference you see in the students at the end of their program. And so Daniel's going to talk to you about Erskine Green, but I'll be perfectly honest, if you've also got questions kind of from that parent perspective, by all means ask, because, and Daniel, don't kill me for saying this, but does it feel weird to send your kid off to go somewhere essentially for school? It absolutely does. Does every parent of a college student feel the exact same way? Yes, they do. And I say that as somebody who's about to go down that journey too, because my youngest just graduated high school and will be starting college this August. But I say that because a lot of the things that we are worried about as a parents are the same thing every parent is worried about. And so if you've got those questions too, I'd love you to be able to ask those. So Daniel Gurulé, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm really excited about this because, like I said, Erskine Green, it is amazing the difference it makes in students. It is amazing the confidence level you see in students from the time they begin the program to the time they end the program. It is extraordinary. But more importantly, Erskine Green is also incredibly successful in teaching students. And so I will stop because I will go on and on and on, and I will let you take over.
All right. Thank you so much, Carly. Like Carly said, my name is Daniel Gurulé. I have been with Erskine Green Training Institute since the inauguration year, which is year one. We started a little bit before that as a team to kind of build up the kind of the knowledge of Muncie, and we put in the work of connecting with the people in the different natural environments we're going to be in. But it's been a wonderful ride, and I love it. I love being a part of it. I love being a part of the Arc of Indiana, Erskine Green Training Institute. So I'm excited to share with you guys about that. And I hope that you guys feel free to ask questions like Carly said, and we'll do our best to answer those. I'm going to share my screen, kind of walk through the presentation that we normally do for a general tour. And so let's get that going. Okay. I'm pretty sure there it is. All right. Okay. So we always start off by pronouncing our name, because sometimes people will say Erskine, and it's not Erskine. It is Erskine Green Training Institute. We are named after the late Carl Erskine, who was a pioneer in many different things. But one of the things that we love about Carl is the impact he and his family made here in Indiana in special education, Special Olympics. And if you've watched his documentary, there's so much more impact that this man has had. So it's Erskine Green. Steve Green is where we get the Green from, who was Bobby Knight's first recruit. He too has a daughter who has Down syndrome, and man, she was a part of the self-advocacy when they started. She's been a voice, a pioneer in herself, Jessica. And so the Green family has been a big part of that as well. And so we are very honored to have Carl Erskine and Steve Green as part of our name. So Carl, Erskine Green Training Institute. All right. Let me move along. EGTI we have two different campuses per se. EGTI Muncie began in January. In January of 2016, the hotel opened its doors, did a ribbon cutting in December of 2015. EGTI Indy programs started this year, and so we're very excited about how that's going, and we're looking forward to what happens there and training more people even in other areas. And so we're excited. We're very excited about where we're headed with as EGTI. Post-secondary vocational training opportunity for individuals with any type of disability. It does not matter. It is for students who have exited high school. So you have to be 18 years or older, and you have to have been out of high school. You do not have to have a diploma. You can have dropped out. You could have a GED, a diploma, partial diploma, letter of completion, any of that. The requirement is that you have a disability and you're 18 years or older. A lot of times people will ask me, is there an age limit where you don't allow? No, we allow anybody who wants to gain job skills and work, live their best life. We have had students in their 30s, 40s, and even 50. So there is no cap. If you want to gain those skills, job skills, EGTI is a place for you. We do take in and out of state students. So it is not just for Indiana. It is for anybody who would like to gain those skills. Now, this is a little bit wrong, and I'm going to tell you why, because we just recently received a student from a 61st county. So that should say 61 Indiana counties represented from our graduates. High school school certifications, like I said before, it does not matter. We have had students about 48% have come to us with a certificate of completion, 50 from a diploma, and the other 2 is from other, a GED, or they dropped out. We have graduated. Actually, let me get this correct, because we have some new students. We have just graduated some students, 300, and tomorrow will be 53. So 353 tomorrow have graduated EGTI. The application process is pretty easy. It's right there on our website. You can complete it. You complete the application, it will tell you what kind of documents you need to upload. It will walk you through it. Make sure that you get those in there. If you miss something, we will reach back out and let you know. But all of that you can find online. After you've applied, we will set up a 90-minute in-person interview and assessment. This time is a very important time for the guardian, the parent, to come in with the applicant. If that applies, if that relationship is there, if nobody is there, nobody comes with, and they want to come by themselves, that's perfectly fine. But this is an opportunity for questions and answers for the parents, the guardian, and while the interview is happening. So it's 90 minutes. It's broken into 3 different parts. We do an assessment on the skills that are being that the application is for. So whichever program you're applying for, we will do an assessment, and then we will talk about just kind of a normal interview with questions about you, giving you an opportunity to ask questions about us and how the process works. If you have any questions, we do that there as well. And then also a time where we kind of go out into the local business downtown of Muncie to see where you're at as far as public transportation. How do you do with the pedestrian walkways, those kinds of things? Just kind of getting out there gives us another opportunity to ask questions, to show around. So it's a very it's a very low key time, 90 minutes at most. The student then, after that time, after you guys have asked questions, you've done the interview, you guys will receive a letter about a week to 2 weeks based on what's going on with EGTI, because sometimes we are in the middle of like a camp or something, and so everybody, all hands are on deck, but we will get that to you as soon as we possibly can. Once you've received that letter, there will be a new student orientation a few weeks before move-in for the students and for their parents. So this time is a full day commitment. You're going to get a tour of Muncie, and then you're going to get a lot of information. And at the end of that day, usually you'll get Carly coming in to talk a little bit about other things that the Arc of Indiana has to offer. For those of the housing arrangement for those students who come to Muncie, they will live in the Courtyard by Marriott as their dorm. Now, if I had that when I was going to school, that would be wonderful. My dorm room was tiny, and I had to share it with another guy. And then we had to share a bathroom with 2 other people. Not here at EGTI. We do have roommate situations where 2 of you can be in the same room. The students who maybe if they're about 60 miles or less and they don't want to stay at the hotel, they can commute. But most of our students will stay at the Courtyard Marriott during that time, gaining so many different skills, and we'll talk about that here as we go. The students that are attending the program at EGTI Indy are commute only. There is no live-in opportunity for the Indy program, the EGTI Riley and EGTI Allison Transmission. There's no live-in situation. So if you want to get that element of EGTI, Muncie is where you need to apply for. The students can choose to have a single, like I said, or a roommate situation. The students will receive evening and weekend support. There are always going to be 1 or 2 staff based on the levels of the students. I'll kind of explain a little bit later what I mean by that, but we have one or two staff. They're here during the time where instructors are not instructing. So they're here in the evening and on the weekends, and then there's one overnight. There will be weekly med checks done typically on Fridays with the instructor to go. The students will have a room check, and at that time the instructor will be able to see where they're doing on meds, but we expect the students to actually be able to administer their own meds. You can find this on our webpage under the home section of our webpage. These are prerequisites for independent living. These are things that we really, really want the people who are applying to come to EGTI to be working on or have perfected. In fact, if you look at this sheet, there are 3 columns. The very first column, the very far left, are requirements that the applicant needs to have mastered. Otherwise, they will not be accepted into EGTI because we don't offer the one-on-one support, and so we want to make sure that the applicant can do daily activities like be able to complete hygiene needs or be able to brush their teeth, clothe themselves, put on deodorant, dress appropriately. We ask that they can administer their own meds because we don't have a nurse on hand or anybody to help administer those. So that's something that they're going to have to be independent in. Money management, they don't have to have a budget perfected, but they do need to know how to spend money with a card or with cash. We actually use a card at EGTI. I'll talk about that here in a little bit about that, but we need them to be able to know how to make purchases. We would like them to learn and to know how to tip because we make that mandatory as we go into the community. We want people to see our students come in and actually be excited when we're there. And so we teach our students how to tip appropriately when they're at those places. So they don't have to have that perfected, but it is something that they should work on before they come to EGTI because we do expect that. And then their behavior, as you look on the left column, the behavior is very, very important. We do not tolerate certain things such as violence, aggression with physical aggression. There are certain behaviors that we do not think are appropriate for a college experience, college life, and so that won't be tolerated. However, some other things that you can look at, like in the other 2 columns, like communication, time management, we've worked with students on how to get to class appropriately and on time using alarms. If you can work on that ahead of time, that'd be even better. So these prerequisites on the left are mandatory. The 2 columns on the right are things that we really hope that you start working on even now as you prepare for EGTI. In Muncie, our programs are based in 3 different areas. One is healthcare, hotel, and restaurant. The restaurant, our students will train at the 1925 Pub House within the Courtyard by Marriott Hotel up in Muncie. Those programs, we do host/server assistant, dishwasher/server assistant. And what that means is the server assistant is something that the hosts and dishwashers have to do when you get a job at a restaurant. So we teach those things so that if they get hired as a host or a dishwasher, they actually know that there's some other tasks that they have to do, and that's where that server assistant comes in. These 2 programs are only 10 weeks. Please pay attention to the weeks that are involved. Hotel, and at the restaurant, it's not indicated here, but at the restaurant, we do teach kitchen cook program as well. During COVID, the restaurant at the Courtyard by Marriott closed, and so the hospital opened up their doors for our students to train in the kitchen cook program, and so our students train there, and we've had that great relationship, so we're able to train in both locations. So the restaurant, we do train kitchen cook, and we also, if the opportunity arises again, we will do that in the healthcare at the IU Health Ball Memorial Hospital as well. So the things we train for at the hotel are Courtyard by Marriott up in Muncie are the front desk agent and heart of the house. Heart of the house is kind of 4 different jobs. We teach housemen, we teach room attendant, we teach laundry, and we teach linen runner. So those 4 things are all kind of clumped into the Heart of the House program, which is 12 weeks. That is so that when somebody comes and they work there, or they train for the Heart of the House, they can go to any hotel and apply for any of those 4 different positions, which are at different hotels based on the size of the hotel. Front desk agent takes 12 weeks as well. Both of those take 12 weeks. And so, and then in healthcare, IU Health Baltimore Hospital is where we train. And over there, we train nutrition services, which is 10 weeks, environmental services, 10 weeks, patient transport, which is 12 weeks, inventory distribution, which is 10 weeks, and kitchen cook, again, 12 weeks, whether it's there or at the restaurant. EGTI Indy, the training programs there are focused in healthcare and manufacturing. The manufacturing is done at Allison Transmissions, and what they do are transmission, there's no S on that, Allison Transmission, and they focus on the what is I just lost it. Well, it'll come back to me. Huh?
Is it assembly line?
Yes, but there's another word for it. But it's a program that we use at Allison that is that's actually I guess seen as certification at different places. So we train there in manufacturing for 5 weeks, and it'll come to me. And then in healthcare at Riley, we train nutrition services, environmental services, inventory distribution, and kitchen cook. Now, at Riley, we do not do patient transport because they don't hire patient transporters, because the nurses at Riley transport their own patients to where they need to go. Whereas in Muncie, they do have patient transporters, so we can then train in that. If you also look, the weeks are a little bit different in the healthcare, because there's healthcare up in Muncie and there's healthcare in Indy. Well, because of the commute aspect of it, there is some training that doesn't need to be done, and so we cut that by a week. Up in Muncie, we do a week of training of just getting around Muncie, going all the different places, showing them where the different areas to eat are, showing them how to use MITS bus, walking around downtown, navigating, using your phone. So that takes about a week, and so we had to put in that week when we're talking about Muncie programs. If you go to our website, you're going to be able to see all of the training programs I just talked about with little vignettes and explanations about them, except for the Riley. We don't have a little video yet to kind of talk about that, but we do have little vignettes, little videos on what the actual job indicates, what it maybe from the worker's perspective. What do they know that they need to have when you're in that job? Like front desk agent, when you watch the video, somebody who's going to get up there and talk about being a front desk agent. Man, I have to be kind. I'm the front line. I'm always smiling. You have to be able to talk to people. So that will be talked about in the video, along with supervisors are going to talk about what they require when they hire somebody. What are they looking for? This job has this or has that. So the videos are very, very helpful. And so if you're interested in any of those programs, I say the first thing you should do is hop on our website, go to EGTI.org, and you can check out these videos and see if the one that you think you might like is actually something you might like. And then after that, you can take some next steps as far as that goes. If you're interested in when the programs are being trained in, that also is on our website. So you can go to EGTI.org again, and you can look for the training programs, the dates, and the prices of those programs are going to also be on our website. So again, that's a great place to go get a lot of information. Things that I'm telling you today are things that you can find on the website as well. So I was kind of alluding to getting on, or next steps. What I would say the next step would be is career sampling session. And so the career sampling session is set up for individuals to kind of get a good idea of everything that EGTI has to offer. So the purpose of this is for everyone to kind of get a good idea of, hey, this is what happens at EGTI. I might be interested in that. And it kind of happens in a two-day crunch. So the structure of it is 9 to 3 for 2 days. The students will rotate through each job with the opportunity to perform some of the job tasks that they have, to view some of the people doing those jobs, and then watching some videos talking about it. We like to talk about the jobs, what it entails, and then what their experience was like. So the EGTI staff will assess how the student does on those job tasks. We'll have a conversation with the student, and then the student will leave with the assessment part, and also we will take note of what the student said during each of the assessments. So the paper will have each little area that we have. So it will have something on kitchen cook. It will have something for host / server assistant, dishwasher slash server assistant. Excuse me, I'm getting tongue tied. So each of those areas will have a percentage on how well they did, but then also what they thought of that job. So we'll ask them, was it difficult for you? And we'll make those notes so that goes home to the team. We'll also have a prerequisite page there. So this it costs $50, and that's because the meals, we have them for 2 days, and we provide lunch because of, that $50 provides lunch for them on both of those days. We use MIT's bus to get to the IU Health Ball Memorial Hospital on the second day, and so they get to experience riding the bus like our students do. You must be 14 years of age, and if you're interested in this, great opportunity. You can register on our website online. We offer different, let me see, did I jump through? Yep, I did jump through that. I jumped through a lot of these guys. Wow, how did I go through? What happened? Hold on real quick. Let me get that back. My sharing stopped. Hold on. I do not know what just happened. I apologize. Okay. All right. Okay. So I was there. So some of the certifications that our students will receive when they come to EGTI, for the kitchen cook program, they're going to receive the Serve Safe certification. They're going to work through that because in Indiana, nobody can work in the kitchen unless they have a Serve Safe certification. So most of the restaurants will have you do that before you actually go to the back of the house. At EGTI, we work with our students to learn the Serve Safe requirements, and then they take the test, and they have to get past that in order to then train for the rest of that time. So they will leave with the Serve Safe certification. We will continue to work with them on that because that's a requirement, and that certification is very, very helpful when they're applying for a kitchen job to be, to help in the kitchen as a cook or a sous chef or whatever as they move forward in their desires in the kitchen. AHLEI will provide their certification, the American Hotel and Lodging Education Institute, for our front desk representatives, our guest service professionals, our room attendants, and our kitchen cook. We also train our patient transporters in CPR. We have a relationship with the YMCA in Muncie, and the individual who trains their lifeguards trains our students in CPR, so they receive a CPR certification. And Catapult, that is what the name was. In manufacturing, they receive a Catapult certification for manufacturing. Told you I remember it. Our training structure is about 3 to 5 students per training program that is totally based on the environment itself. Are we able to train 2 students because we have 2 front desks, or we can do 4 because we have 2 front desks and we can rotate? How big is the kitchen that we're training in? That will only take so many people. So however many people we take to each of those programs at that one time is totally based on the environment that we train them in. So they get as much of the training as we possibly can while they're there with us at EGTI. And so it's 3 to 5 per training program. The training week goes from Monday to Friday. The hours vary based on, again, like I said, the program, because sometimes as you learn the skills, the job, people show up at 6:30 in the morning to start their job. Well, if our students are going into that natural environment to do the job and they're not there at 6:30 or 7 o'clock when the other people start, they miss a lot of good stuff that they have to learn for the job. And so that's why kind of the hours will vary, because sometimes they have to start earlier with something like host/server assistant or dishwasher. They're not always busy in the back, so we're not gonna take them over there first thing in the morning because the kitchen's clean. But we will maybe start them later in that day. So that's how that plays out. And then it's a mixture of in classroom, training lab, and then for sure on the job training. We do some work readiness lessons and activities on Fridays or Mondays, whichever day it works with the instructor. And during those times, they're going to learn things, how to build a resume, how to look for a job, how to give a handshake at a job. That's really important. We also taught how to do interviews on Zoom, because during COVID, we learned that that's a possibility. And so sometimes that happens. So we do these things where we focus on not just the job skills, but also how to get a job, how to look for that job, how to present yourself when you're applying for that job and when you get that interview. And we work with our students on that. We also have seen that there are times where there's maybe a student struggles with one thing, maybe time management. They keep showing up late. So then we'll pull that person aside, we'll talk to that person, and we'll start working with that individual about how to set alarms, what to do to get to be on time, what is holding them back, why is it taking them so long? So we focus on that, and we like to move them along in the soft skills that they need to keep the job. So we teach them how to get a job, the job skills itself, but then we also teach them some skills that they might need to keep the job. The difference between the weeks, the 1 week and the 1 week between the Indy Riley jobs and then the one up in Muncie, that week is because of this, the community access checklist. In the first week, we really focus on the skills that are needed for each of our students to kind of live their next 9 weeks up, or the next 11 weeks up in Muncie. So we want them to live as independent as possible, but we want to find out how safe and how independent they already are. So we have what's called the community access checklist. We go through this in 3 different levels. The first level, we know that there's a lot of strangers that come into that hotel. The hotel has a convention center that's attached to it. So there are conventions from people all over the United States. We have Muncie has a yearly Ironman. They have already signed a contract where they're coming to Muncie, and people come for Ironmans from all over the world. There's different things up in Muncie that draw people from all over the United States and all over the world. What does that mean? Well, that means that the hotel is full of strangers. And so we want to make sure that our students know how to interact with strangers appropriately, know what information not to give, who to open the door to, who not to open the door to, how to check who's at the door. These things are very, very important. And then also how to have appropriate behavior. If a student shows that they are independent and safe in the stranger world, and also how they behave appropriately in public, they can then move to the next level. And the next level is we focus on pedestrian skills downtown Muncie, navigation skills. Let me say this, if you have not started working with how to get from point A to point B using your phone with iPhone maps or Google Maps, I highly encourage you to start working on that stuff, because you would not believe how many people have never really been able to get from one spot to another because they've never had that opportunity to practice. Well, we do. We practice that, and we make it a point to hopefully move our students through that level 2 where they can get from point A to point B on their own. We talk about panhandlers because there are panhandlers in Muncie. We talk about tipping because when we're not with them, we want them to be able to tip and represent EGTI and themselves and their families well. And so if they show themselves that they're safe and independent in these, we move them to the next level. The next level is only on navigation or public transportation. So we focus on riding MITS. MITS is Muncie, Indiana's transit system. We have had a relationship with them for 10 plus years now, and they are fantastic. They love EGTI. Several of them follow us on our social outlet, our social media stuff. They know when our students are on because our students wear the shirts, and they are sometimes they have to be told not to stop automatically, especially when we're training our students how to appropriately stop the bus, because they know where our students are going. They care about our students, they care about EGTI, and the community really embraces us. And so this is a safe environment for us to train our students to build that independence. This is, I believe, what Carly was talking about. When the student comes to EGTI, one person, they will leave a totally different person. And the community access checklist is a big part of that, because as they gain that independence to be able to use the bus on their own, they start to envision themselves being able to live independently even further. And so this is a really big part. Our students love to get through these 3 levels. If they don't, that's okay. That's why we have the staff. If they cannot get through any of these levels, we have staff to go with them places. But if they get through the levels, they're able to do this independently. All they have to do is sign out and they can leave. So level 1, they can stay in the hotel by themselves. Level 2, they can sign out and go downtown Muncie on their own. And if they're through level 3, they can sign out, go downtown, hop on a bus, go to Walmart, go to the mall, go to a movie, come back, sign back in, and that's how that's done. So this is a real big part of EGTI Muncie. Up in Muncie, we have social activities in the evening. People are like, well, what are they going to do when they're not in training? Well, that's where the social life comes in. A lot of social skills happen during this time. We have staff who are really seen by us as like a residential assistant, somebody to encourage those students to get out and go participate in some of the fun things happening in Muncie. Muncie is a very active city. There's a lot of stuff that's happening downtown that our students get to be a part of. There's a lot of things at Ball State that our students are allowed to be a part of. We have a guy who's a part of the athletics at Ball State, and he comes and talks to our students before each session and tells them what teams are playing during that time, what are free, what sporting events are free to attend, what sporting events cost. They've even given us free tickets at times. That's wonderful. So our relationship with Ball State, as far as activities goes on, we have so many fun things downtown. There's this thing Fired Up downtown, and a lot of really cool stuff. And so they get to choose what they're going to do in the evenings. And that's a big thing. Sometimes students have come to EGTI and they're like, man, I don't know what do you want to do? I don't know. And they don't know how to choose how to use their time. And this is such an important skill to learn. And so here at EGTI, they get that opportunity by our staff, encouraging them to make decisions on how to use their time in the evenings. We have mentors that engage with our students, either a community or a fitness mentor. The community mentors, they actually go out into the community with our students at Ball State game, or they go to see a movie together. There was this group of girls that went to a sorority party where they all got their nails done. So that was a cool thing that the community mentor took them to. Our fitness mentors focus on fitness. With our free YMCA membership for all of our students, the fitness mentor is able to go to YMCA with our students and do some workouts. Go for a walk. We have up in Muncie, they have the longest trail, the Cardinal Greenway. It's safe. They can rent bikes at a certain location, ride those bikes along the trail. So there's a lot of fun things and active things to do in Muncie. And so our community and fitness mentors help our students get out and do some of those things. So they're not always just sitting in their room playing video games, which is fine, but not all the time. So we like to have a balance, teach a balance. Each of the students has a card, a TrueLink card, which is connected to the instructor. So the students have about $155 a week to spend for their meals, and then they're reloaded every Friday. And sometimes that money runs out early, and so budgets have to be worked on, and meal plans have to be created, and so that's something that we can work with our students on when we are notified if they overspent at a certain place. Because it's one thing going somewhere and spending $10 at maybe a McDonald's or something. But then if you go to like McDonald's and you're spending $30, our instructor is going to get notified and they're going to say, what were you buying at McDonald's that cost $30? And so then they're able to talk about how to spend money, how to save money, how not to overspend so you have money at the end of the week. And so that also is another skill set that grows there. At EGTI, that in every student gets to learn how they're going to spend money when they're on their own, and then have how to follow up with those conversations that we might have to have if they need to have. But some other students know exactly what they're doing, what they have, how to budget, and they can do that independently, and that's great. Others we work with and we assist. So that's how that works. And then visiting hours, we say whenever we're not in class, then you can visit with, but we try to say the more you visit, the less they're going to be reaching out to other people to build strong relationships with new people and learn new things and do other stuff. So you come as, every other weekend, once a session. I'm just kidding. That is going to be up to the family. We always try to say, though, the first weekend is very, very important to not go home so that they are almost forced to engage with the other students. And that 2 weeks of not going home really helps with not having homesickness, because every time they go home or early in it, then you have to work on that homesickness again if that's something they struggle with. Some don't. So how do we fund? How do we pay for this? We want to go. EGTI is awesome. It sounds amazing. How do we fund it? Well, tuition and fees can be found on our website, like I was saying earlier. Training programs at Riley right now are currently 50% reduced due to a grant that we were given by IU Health Foundation, which we're very excited about and grateful for. There are scholarships in certain communities. You can go to your community and ask if they have different scholarships that would apply for this. You can get private loans. I had a private loan myself when I went to school. Vocational rehabilitation services. If you're not connected to VR, to vocation rehabilitation, I would highly suggest that would be a great place to build a relationship with, because they're focused on jobs, on individuals with disabilities gaining employment, and they have been a great partner of EGTI. You can pay through ABLE accounts and trust accounts. And for more information on that stuff, or any questions you guys might have about any of this stuff and how it works and all that kind of good stuff, please ask. Carly knows. I might be able to answer. We have other people who can answer and walk you through this. So if you have any questions, please ask. So one of the things I'm very, very proud of is those who complete the program. How many of them get jobs in what we train them in? I know that I went to school for something and I worked. I didn't do what I went to school for, right? But I have a job. However, some of our students who train with us do go out and they work exactly in the field that they trained in. At the end of each session, our students will go back home after they've had an exit meeting. So at the end of their session, they'll have an exit meeting. The student will lead the exit meeting. They'll talk about the things that they learned. You'll be able to ask questions to the instructor. This is where we want the whole team. If you are a part of a team like vocational rehabilitation, if you have a job coach, any of that stuff, anybody on the team, guardian, whoever you feel, behavior consultant, whatever, whoever, bring them to that meeting, because that meeting they're going to talk about what that student learned at EGTI overall, where they're at in their skill levels, and then you're able to take that to the next stage. Then the student moves back home to their own town. We really encourage people to just get moving right then, because a lot of times if the individual doesn't start looking, doesn't start going to town, trying to find a job, get a job, they then get back into a rut, and it's harder to then go get a job later. So we want them to go start searching for jobs. That's why we have the exit meeting. We talk, all the way through the training with, hey, what are the plans? Where are you headed? So afterwards, they go home. At 8 and 18 months, there's a follow-up survey that's given to measure the outcomes. What we've seen is at 8 months, 75% of our students are employed. 75% of the students who have filled out the survey, and 25 are unemployed. At 18 months, 79% are employed and 21 are unemployed. From those numbers, at 8 months, for all of the first 8 years, 63% completed the survey. Out of that 63%, 87 working in the area of training. That's pretty awesome. 72% are part-time and 28 are full-time. I love these numbers because that means that when they trained at EGTI, they went out, they got jobs, and they started to be able to get money and live their best life. We also have things like Camp EGTI, which is coming up in July the 7th through the 18th. These individuals stay on site at the Courtyard by Marriott, home of EGTI, focus on skills related to transition and increasing independence. A lot of that stuff that we talk about in the community access checklist, we cover in this. We do cover some the career sampling session. There's so many other things, and then they get to do fun activities. So if you're looking for an opportunity, a camp opportunity still, we still do have room. So please hop online and apply there online. If you do not follow us already, we ask you to follow us. If you're on X, we're at Erskine Green. If we're on Facebook, just put our name in, Erskine Green Training Institute. And Instagram, it's at Erskine Green. All right. So, Carly, I think it's now time for questions.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. And as Daniel said, we'd love to have you include your questions. You can put those in the Q&A, and we will get to those here in just a moment. There are a couple of things that if it's okay, I want to share. So
Absolutely.
Daniel was talking about the career sampling sessions, and I think those are an amazing idea, because sometimes you have people who think they want to do a specific job until they actually try that job. A lot of times we'll have people who want to work with animals until they realize that means cleaning up after animals. One of the jobs my son was interested in was the prep cook program, because he was learning to cook and he was enjoying that. And that was one of the programs he was interested in when he first went through his career sampling session. And the deciding factor for him was that during that career sampling session, he learned he'd have to wear a beard guard. And he did not like having to wear a beard guard. And so he did not want to do the prep cook program. That's why he went to the supply chain program. And so that's why that career sampling session can be a really, really great idea. If you're on the fence, if you don't know if this is something that's going to be right for your loved one, this is the way to find that out without making any sort of huge commitment. And as Daniel said, while this is a program for after high school, It also doesn't have to mean right after high school. Their oldest student, I believe, was 58 when he went through that. That may be a little, that
So
information be out
54,
of
I
date.
think.
Okay. Um, but but what I mean by that is there are absolutely, older students who are going through as well. So this does not have to be, oh, high school ended last year, we have to go this year. It's not like that. And they also have a lot of students who maybe they've tried working in jobs, and maybe they want to try a different job. Maybe they want to try to further their career. And this is another option for that as well. The other thing that I want to share is about that confidence that I talked about, and especially the community access evaluations that they do, because those are really important.
Yeah.
I remember about the second week my son was at Erskine Green, I realized I needed him to pull money out of the ATM. Well, he'd had a debit card for a couple of years by that point, and he'd always used that without any problem. I didn't realize he'd never used an ATM before.
Yeah.
So I called him up on the phone, and we made the arrangements, and I called him on the phone to talk him through how to use that.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, I said, so Andy, the bank, is it near the hotel? Is it near the hospital? He goes, no, but I pass it every day on the bus, so I knew where to go. I said, okay. Trying not to let panic come through my voice. I'm like, so do you know how to get back? He's like, oh yeah, that's what happens when you're level 3. And I
That's
swear
right.
he said it in exactly that voice. You know, that's what happens when you're level 3. But that's just it is the confidence. And then they come home and they can
Yeah.
still get around, and the pride they have in being able to buy something at the store, being
Yeah.
able to go to Jimmy John's to get lunch just because they can. There is a lot that comes with it. It's not exclusively about work. Work is absolutely a big part of this.
Yeah.
It's not all there is to it. It really does make it just a huge difference. And so we've gotten some questions that have come through. And so um, we've got
Okay.
somebody as the guardian of an EGTI graduate. I can only state how good that program is. She was employed by IU Ball Memorial Hospital in the janitorial program. She'd been employed for over 6 years and is now the trainer for EGTI students in the janitorial program. I highly endorse this program and encourage families and individuals to consider EGTI. It is a life-changing positive experience. Dan, thank you so much for sharing your experience with this.
Yeah.
And and that's the thing is, when you talk to those families whose loved ones have gone through EGTI, you will hear a lot of similar things. You will hear the pride, you will
Mhm.
hear, frankly, the awe,
Yeah.
because our kids are able to do so many things, and just getting to see them fulfill their potential, getting to see them live a regular life, live the life that everybody else gets to have. For so many of us, that has felt like something that our kids would not be able to experience, and it is something they can experience. And sometimes, this may not be, they may not be ready right after high school. It may take a couple years to get them ready, and that's why I love that prerequisite sheet, because it gives you some ideas of
Yeah.
things to work on. I shared that my son was supposed to start in April of 2020. Then COVID happened. And it was one of those things where I was like, oh crap, we never taught him how to do laundry. So we spent those few months, teaching him how to do laundry and really kind of, drilling down on that. And I swear,
Hmm.
now he actually does laundry for the entire household. I've actually had trouble
There we
teaching my
go.
younger son how to do that. And to this day, Andy still does laundry for us. But one of the other things is that with the laundry situation, um, taught him how to do laundry at home. Well, it's a home washer and dryer. Well, the machines at Erskine Green are a little bit more like a laundromat washer and dryer. And so I realized it's not the same. And so one of the things I did was I said, Andy, give me your phone real quick. And he gave me his phone as we were looking around the hotel when he moved in. And so I took a video on his phone and went through the steps. I'm like, okay, here's where you're going to put your detergent. Here's where you're going to put the laundry sanitizer. Because again, he was doing a hospital-based program in October of 2020. I'm like, here's where you're going to put, here's where you're going to put the quarters. And then and just walked him through those steps so that when I was gone, he could follow along with that video so that he would still be able to do his own laundry and all of that. And I will also say I was completely jealous because the hotel's cleaning crew does actually clean their hotel rooms once a week. Why don't I get to have that? But I will set that aside. We have some more questions.
Hold on, before you go on, Dan, Stewart, when he had said that. So today I got to see who he's talking about. She was all proud because we had tomorrow is graduation, and so she's been working with the student who's graduating, and they had something at Huddle, and so I got to see her at today, and so it was really wonderful how much pride she takes in being a part of the EGTI process. So
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Can students bring bring a car to Muncie?
So yeah,
we've got students who drive.
yeah, we've had students who drive. They can bring a car to Muncie, but during the week and the weekend, while they're there, they have to use MITs to get around. They cannot use their car to get around Muncie unless it's to go home for the weekend. If they're at EGTI in Muncie, they are going to need to use MITs, MITs with everybody else. So they can bring the car, but they can't use it while they're there for getting back and forth from the hospital or doing. We want them to build the skills to ride a bus, so that they, in case the car breaks down or whatever, and then also really give them another skill.
Okay. How old do they have to be to attend?
So 18 years. So if they are going to attend EGTI, they have to be 18 years of age on day one of their training session.
And again, there's not a maximum age limit either.
No.
So, who can family call, and at what number to ask questions and if they've got any concerns?
Well, that all depends on what you're talking about. So each of the instructors engage with the students, but then they engage with parents via email. There is all of our instructors give their phone number to the students. The parents will have the hotel number. If they have any other questions or concerns, you can find people on our website. If you want to ask specific things, you can ask info@egti.org.
And if they have some more questions about the program more generally, not when they're a student, not necessarily when they're a person and
Yes.
student, but like if they've got some more questions or they think of a question, a few weeks from now, who can they call and talk to then?
So that you can call and ask for Megan Stevenson. She's the director of EGTI. She actually was here right before me. And so she's been here longer than me. And so she is the director. She has all the answers. And if she doesn't have the answer, she'll get the answer. And then the Arc of Indiana has a great group who know things, and they can get you connected. Again, that information that can be found on our website. Megan's email, her number.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and as I talk to parents who may be interested in EGTI, sometimes there will be those concerns from families about about how EGTI may handle their loved ones' disabilities. And what I will say is this is what they do. That's exactly what they're used to. The things that your loved one deals with, maybe like with my son, he is not the most social person in the world. Were they trying to get him out and doing more things? Yes, they were. And they did get him out and doing more things. But at the same time, he's also somebody who needs his alone time. And so they were certainly respectful of that. But they know how to work with people with disabilities because that's exactly what they do. So, if you've got a loved one who may, who may get hyper focused on a specific topic, or who may, talk to themselves or something along those lines. They're gonna work with them on that because those are the things they're absolutely used to dealing with. What accommodations do you provide for the fully blind? Do you have technology with JAWS, talking calculators, Braille, etc.?
Well, so we have had our very, before EGTI, I had never had any experience working with anyone who is blind, fully blind. Session one, year one, session one, we had two individuals who attended EGTI who were fully blind. That was a learning experience for me. That session was very much, hey, what do you need from me to train how to get around downtown, how to ride the bus? There were a lot of things learned. When you want to talk about the different training, it's individually for every individual. We're going to provide as much as we possibly can to train them in those job skills. If you're asking about accommodations, as far as so when you ask accommodations, are you talking about like job carving, or are you asking about accommodations as like just in technologies? Because every student that we get, or when they apply, we accept them based on the information, on the knowledge of the assessment. Based on the assessment, the knowledge, what we've picked up is, does this person have the base skills to be able to learn this job? When we accept them, then if we find out, okay, so yes, we did, but here's what we learned about this, we will then start to build accommodations, maybe work with some work to find out what works best. So every person is different, and I know that's very vague, but we haven't had as many opportunities to be able to use things like JAWS. Those two students didn't use technology. They didn't have apps on their phone to be able to because we don't have talking calculators there. But we try to encourage them to bring the devices and the things that they need to be able to gain that training, and we'll work with them. These are good conversations to have as you apply, or when you come up for a career assembly session, or if you come for a general tour and Megan gives that, or you can ask those questions one-on-one. You can be more specific, because again, every student is treated as an individual, and we work with those individuals to try to help them gain those skills they need to gain employment. And I know that doesn't answer exactly, but
Well, and one of the other things that I want to say is most of the students who have attended EGTI have been working with vocational rehabilitation services. If you're not familiar with it's often called Voc Rehab, or VR for short, but that's short for Vocational Rehabilitation Services. They are a state agency whose whole purpose is to help people with disabilities find jobs, and they can do that a lot of different ways. One of the ways they can do that is by paying for training programs like Erskine Green. But most of the students who have gone to Erskine Green have been working with VR. And so one of the other things is VR can also help the prospective student get the technology that they would need and get the equipment that they would need in order to be able to do the job and access the education. And when Daniel says, oh, we individualize things, I think as parents, we've all heard that. No, they actually do. So they look to see, what does that specific student need? And so, for example, I have seen where they've had students who may have trouble remembering the steps to something. They may have trouble remembering a process. And so they have created, I'm going to say wrist guards. That's probably the wrong term. But like if you've ever seen like an NFL quarterback and they've got this thing on their wrist to remember plays, they've designed
yeah,
something like that for students to help them remember steps. You know, and so and I know that that wouldn't work in this particular situation, but there could be a situation where maybe they are able to get some things printed in Braille if the student uses Braille, or again, using that technology because now we have access to that, you know, working with them to get an app on their phone that will actually speak that out to them. And so, you know, and I know that they would be willing to work with in data, which is the Indiana Assistive Technology Act, because it was named after the legislation, but that's through Easter Seals Crossroads, and they are the Technical Assistance Center for Assistive Technology. And so they would be willing to collaborate with them to make sure that the student is getting the things that they need.
Yeah.
So there would be a lot of collaboration, and especially collaboration with that student to figure out what works best for them. Because, you know, you may have something that's great, but if it's hard for that student to use, it doesn't matter how great that is. We need to find something that works for that student. And so they really can personalize it like that too.
Yeah.
Hope you don't mind me chiming in on
No, not at all. Not at all.
Um, does the Allison transmission training offer a full-time or part-time position at Allison if training is successfully completed?
No, no, that we had originally, when we were testing the pilot with Allison Transmission, that was the idea behind it. But with so many different obstacles, working with the union, if they have a hiring freeze, that would then determine whether we could have sessions or not, or they would be hired or not. So they are not guaranteed a position at Allison Transmission. However, them training at Allison Transmission will give them an opportunity to impress and to be right there on the front line for them to get to know them so that they can see them in action before they apply, and that would give them a benefit, but it does not guarantee a job coming out of the training. And that's not for any of our training. So none of the things that we train in do we guarantee a job after. Just like in college, when you go to school, you get trained. That college is to train you in what you want to gain employment. You then go and gain the employment. So it's kind of the same that way with EGTI.
One of the kind of tangents I want to go on just a little bit is that I know that a lot of, you know, one of the things that families always ask is how much can my loved one make? And because that's always something that we have to consider when our loved ones are receiving benefits of various types. And the quick answer is that there's no straight up answer to that. Anyone who tells you there's a straight up answer is wrong. That's about as polite as I can be on that. And it's because there are a lot of moving factors to this. Because when has there ever been a clear-cut answer on anything involving our loved ones? This is the same thing. And so, if we're talking about, you're wanting to protect their Social Security benefits, one of the things we need to do is document what types of supports they need and what types of work incentives they would be accessing to be able to maintain their job. So there are ways to make sure that they are able to work as much as possible while either protecting those benefits, or if they would like to work off benefits, making a plan to be able to work off of those benefits and sustain it. When it comes to Medicaid and therefore the waiver, one of the things that I will always talk about is MedWorks, which literally stands for Medicaid for Employees with Disabilities. Because, first of all, it is my mission in life to make sure people know that, but also because people with disabilities can make up to 350% of the poverty line from all sources and have full Medicaid that is waiver compatible. So this year they can make just under 55 grand a year and keep their Medicaid and therefore keep their waiver. So there are lots of ways to do that. It's nuanced, and the answer is going to be slightly different for everybody, but there are a lot of things you can do with that. We have another question. Does EGTI help place students in jobs?
So no, we don't place students in jobs either. However, while they're at EGTI and they're learning, if they have a desire, or they obviously we're going to be, we teach them how to look for jobs while we're talking about work readiness skills. We'll teach them how to do that. The role of a job coach or VR when they're part of the team is to take the student after EGTI and then go do the next steps. So that's why when Carly was talking about the relationship with VR, vocation rehabilitation services, having a relationship with them is important on several different levels. That is one of the levels, that's one of the benefits of working with them, is after EGTI they'll then work with the student to gain employment. However, since EGTI has started, we have built relationships with people, and people who hear about us all over the state have said, hey, if you have somebody who graduates and they live in this area, let us know, or have them apply with us. So we have a list of places where people are EGTI friendly and excited. And so if that applies, we can kind of give that information to the student at departure or graduation. And we also have a great relationship with IU Health Memorial Hospital. If anybody goes through our program and they are going to apply at a IU Health, IU will say, hey, we'll call the HR and we'll tell them, make sure you give them an interview, because EGTI is a program that is successful. We have people who are hired who have gone through EGTI and they give their stamp of approval. And so that it doesn't guarantee a job, but it lets them know that this individual has some training that will benefit them as a company.
And the thing is, you do not have to have a high school diploma to go through Erskine Green.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that question about whether somebody has a high school diploma is a weed out question on job applications. And it's not like you're ever talking to anybody. It's a computer system that just automatically tosses that application. But IU Health, for example, had a requirement that if you wanted to work at IU Health, you had to have a high school diploma or your high school equivalency. Okay. Used to be called a GED. Now it's a high school equivalency. IU Ball Memorial, because they were our partners in this, made an exception to that from the very beginning. But IU Health was so impressed by the quality of graduates out of Erskine Green and by the incredible work ethic they had, by how well they were actually able to do the job. IU Health actually changed their policies network wide. And if you completed the Erskine Green Training Institute, even if you did not have a high school diploma, IU Health would still consider hiring you and still would allow you to go through that process. And that's because of the quality of the program and the quality of the graduates that were coming out of it. And again, I'm gonna share another story. So when my son was looking for his first job, he, was putting in applications, got his first interview set up. As you can imagine, he was nervous, as we would all be. And I, they called me up while I was at work. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon to tell me that he had a job interview the next morning, and that he was feeling pretty nervous. So I was kind of talking him down a little bit, helping him through that. And Daniel and Megan happened to be in the office that day. And so I was telling him, yeah, and Andy's got his first job interview, and I gotta admit, he's pretty nervous. And they looked at me, they're like, would it help for him to talk to Daniel or Sarah beforehand? I'm like, really? And they're like, of course. And I'm like, well, let me ask him. And so I called Andy up. I'm like, Andy, would you like to talk to, Daniel or Sarah, who was his instructor at the time? And he's like, yeah, I think I would. I'm like, okay, I'll let him know. And they did. So Sarah called him up that morning and not only reassured him, pumped him up, reminded him that he's got this. And yes, he got the job as a result of all of that. So yeah.
Love it. I love when Carly tells her stories.
Okay. Let's see. I think that was all of the questions that we had come in. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. As always, and if you have any more questions, because like I always say, if you're anything like me, you'll think of something 3 weeks from now. By all means, go ahead and call Erskine Green, reach out to them through their website, call us here at the Arc of Indiana. We will gladly answer your questions. We'll help guide you through this process and really also, I know there wind up being a lot of questions about employment. Like, this sounds really exciting. What does that look like in real life? We're going to talk to you about all of that. So by all means, go ahead and give us a call here at 317-977-2375. You can talk with any of our family advocates. You can ask to talk to somebody, either Daniel or Megan at Erskine Green. We have one more question that came in. Actually, it was just a thank you, Daniel, for talking to us about this today. And so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. If you have any suggestions for other topics you'd like us to cover through Ask the Arc, by all means, you can always email me or call us up and share any suggestions. Thank you for joining us and have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.